let's face it, none of us changes. We become more like ourselves. We become more refined of who we are as we grow older, but very, very few people change because there's very rarely ever a reason to change. The things in our lives that are going to change us and move us are the things that are going to make us uncomfortable. But the truth is that for most people, it's only going to move you enough so that you can get away from the discomfort. Not into a place where you're more comfortable, but just enough to get you away from the discomfort. And this is one of the reasons that people try very hard at an unconscious level to avoid deep ideas, deep people, challenges and struggles in our lives, because those are the things that make us uncomfortable with ideas or with difficulties. And those are the things that threaten. And I mean that, they threaten to change us. People who don't put their carts back at the supermarket, that's an old test as well. That's a person who's going to leave problems for other people to fix. Oh, but that's their job, and they just leave it. Oh, but they'll send someone out to get it. Do you know why they send people out to get the shopping carts? Because people leave them scattered around. And the truth is most people are happy with that. They don't want to be in control, much less of their own lives. I'm not talking about being in control of society. That's much bigger. Most people don't even want to be in control of their own lives. We want people to do what we want them to do, but we don't really want to be in control because control demands responsibility. And if you're going to be anything other than a weakling, you have to take responsibility for your own life. If you have the ability to do great harm to people and then you choose not to, well, now you're a good person. If we have a lion sitting here in the corner and then we have a rabbit sitting in that corner, do you look at the rabbit and say, that's a good rabbit. That rabbit is not harming the lion. He's not attacking the lion. What a good rabbit. And the rabbit says there's violence is never the answer. No, we sit there and go, the rabbit's not good or evil. It can't do any harm to the lion. You know, the problem is when you have weaklings who come along and think that they're good when they're not capable of doing harm. I ask Christians this a lot, and the answers are usually prefaced with an expression of shock or dismay somewhat. The question is, if you believe that you're serving God, would you still do it even if it meant that you'd go to hell at the end of all of it? Or do you only do it because you think you're going to get heaven out of it? And if you're only doing it because you think you're going to get heaven out of it, then you're not really doing it for goodness sake. You're doing it because it's transactional. It's like you're selling something. And if you are a religious believer, then you have to believe that your soul isn't yours to barter with. It isn't yours to sell or trade with. So it's that question, would you still serve and worship God even if it meant that at the end of all of it, you'd still go to hell? And I've gotten a couple of answers from some believers before. One of them I was thinking that kind of stood out to me was he said, absolutely. And it wasn't like a bravado, like, absolutely, I still would. It was very much, he just said, yes, absolutely. I asked why. And he gave an answer like you gave, but it was very earnest. He just said, because it's the right thing to do, because he's worthy of worship. And if you're doing the right thing, even if we're not tasked with the outcomes of things. We're only tasked with our actions on things. And so, how are things going to turn out? You have no control over that. You can influence them by the things that you do. But do bad things happen to good people? Do good things happen to bad people? And so we aren't tasked with how things turn out. We're tasked with how we respond to things, what we do. Like I was saying earlier about mediocrity, like I said, you can't swing a dead cat in the world without hitting mediocrity. There are places that I literally will not go because the level of mediocrity is just like it's so wrenching when you're around it. And you look around, you're just like, and it's not the fact that you're better than anybody. It's just that as you look around, it's so much like completely wasted potential. It's one of those hard things about being a teacher. It really is probably the hardest thing about being a teacher, is that you look at the world and you ask, how many people in the world are going to be exceptional? How many people have the potential to be exceptional? And there are way more people with the potential to be exceptional than there are people who are going to end up being exceptional. The seeds of it and the characteristics of it are already apparent at y'all's age. I could go down a list and write out how many of my students are going to end up, and we can go back in 10 years and visit it. And I run into, obviously I stay in touch with a lot of people, and I come across a lot of people. And even then the people I talk to, they know the other people I don't talk to. I've never been surprised. I'm literally thinking about that. This is my 16th year. I've never looked at it afterwards and said, oh, I'm surprised. Even I have a student who, actually I guess two now, who were schizophrenic and ended up homeless. I had them, one as a 10th grader, one as a 12th grader. I interacted with both of them a lot, and neither of them am I surprised by. It's like, yeah, that's exactly, if you'd asked me to write down how I think they're gonna turn out, I wouldn't have put in maybe schizophrenia, but I would have said mental illness for sure. And I wonder, how come it is that I can be with you just a few hours a week and see it, and then there are people in our lives who are around us a lot growing up, and yet they don't recognize it, they don't see it. And I think it goes back to what we were saying earlier, that there's this bias that we have towards our friends, towards our family, that we don't want to believe, especially if they're our children. We don't want to believe that that's the direction that they're going to go in, because yes, we love them, but also there's at an unconscious level that we recognize that they're a reflection of us. It's like I was talking to a class last week, and I was saying that I very, very rarely ever have parent conferences. I get emails from parents sometimes. In fact, it's coming into March, April, around April, May, usually, late April, early May, I find out that some of you guys have parents. Isn't that amazing? I never knew this. I never would have known this otherwise. Why? Because you can be failing an entire year, and then all of a sudden, within a few weeks of graduation, I find out that we have parents. Now, most of that kind of goes away because they hand out the grad plan for everybody they feel bad for being weak. But as soon as parents recognize, oh wait, they're going to get the diploma anyway? Yeah, who cares? And they walk away. And I just think that's not a recent manifestation of a lack of interaction or a lack of influence in people in their kids' lives. It's a culmination of 18 years of it. It's something that has been imbued in us since we were early, whether we realize it or not, because let's face it, none of us changes. We become more like ourselves. We become more refined of who we are as we grow older, but very, very few people change, because there's very rarely ever a reason to change. We typically only change if there's a reason for it. So if you're standing here and I walk up to you and I put my finger in your arm like this, if it's not bothering you, you're not going to move. Typically the only thing that gets you to move is if it starts to bother you, then you'll back up. But notice how far you'll back up most of the time. It's only just far enough to get away from the thing that's uncomfortable. The things in our lives that are going to change us and move us are the things that are going to make us uncomfortable. But the truth is that for most people, it's only going to move you enough so that you can get away from the discomfort. Not into a place where you're more comfortable, but just enough to get you away from the discomfort, if this makes sense. And so by the time you get to be 18, 28, 38, you just get more and more and more refined into who you are. But unless something has made you very uncomfortable in your life, it's not going to change you. And this is one of the reasons that people try very hard at an unconscious level to avoid deep ideas, deep people, challenges and struggles in our lives, because those are the things that make us uncomfortable with ideas or with difficulties. And then those are the things that threaten. And I mean that, they threaten to change us. Because if it changes you, Well, now you have to upend your whole life. You have to change everything about your life. It's very difficult to change just one aspect of your life. Going back to the religious example, if you live your whole life and you don't believe in a God of any kind, and all of a sudden one day you get hit with the belief that there's a God, then everything in your life should change. If everything in your life doesn't change, then that tells you that you haven't changed, because it becomes very difficult to live a life not believing in a supreme being, in a creator, in a heaven, in a hell, in a moral code, and then all of a sudden one day believe it and only have like a little bit of you changed. The whole thing has to change if you really believe it. It's just like if you walk in here and you're just hanging out, and if someone says, "Oh, someone in here has a gun," you're like, "Oh, okay. I wonder who it is." And you might be like, "Oh, a little anxious and nervous, looking around. I wonder who it could be." Well, you haven't changed. You've adopted a little bit of a belief that something is possible. And maybe you go about your work day, but you're still looking around at people with their backpacks, but you're going about your work day. Once someone takes the gun out of their backpack and starts shooting, now you really, really believe. And now your life is going to change. Your behavior is going to change. You're not just going to sit there and go, "That's crazy," and go back to your work. You're going to get up and you're going to run out. You're going to behave in a way that you never would have behaved before. That's how you can tell when things have changed you, when beliefs have changed you, when ideas have changed you, when people have changed you. Now, how do you know if they've changed you for the long term? It's patience. You have to live the long term to see if it's a lasting change. And this goes back to, and some of you will know exactly what I'm talking about when I say this. This will go back to like a relationship. You have two people who are together and they're about to break up, and one person realizes that they haven't been communicating very well, or they haven't been listening. "Oh my God, you're right. I'm so sorry." Blah, blah. And then for a few weeks they listen more, but then after a while it tapers off and they go back to who they've always been. Yeah, they understand it academically, intellectually, the same way that you understand somebody in here might have a weapon and go, "That's crazy," and go back to what you were doing, and you're a little bit more attentive. But let's face it, as the day goes on and no gun manifests, you go back to what you were doing before. The same is with the relationship. If you don't genuinely adopt this thing that someone's trying to tell you, which is that you don't communicate and you don't listen very well, you'll do it just long enough to move away from the finger and relieve that discomfort of losing this person. But a real change is going to be lasting. It's not going to be, how do I say it? It's not going to be manic, hyper-manic. You'll see that people who don't change for real, they become hyper-manic. They go out of their way. "I'm listening to you right now. I want you to know I'm listening." And they'll talk like this for a little while. Just so you know. But then they go back to it. They go back to who they were. And so, if you want to be changed, you have to encounter ideas. And I mean, take them seriously. You have to encounter people and take them seriously. You have to adopt the lessons that you do encounter and take them seriously. But that's so hard to do because, let's face it, that's a lot of work for most of us. You have to change. If you truly believe something is different, you have to change your whole life for it. And every aspect of your life changes. It's like a Jenga puzzle. It's not just going to be this one area. Oh, your significant other is going to break up with you because you just don't listen to them very well. They don't feel heard. So does that, if that truly changes you, you're going to listen to your friends more. You're going to listen to your boss. You're going to listen to strangers. In other words, becoming a listener will now become part of all of your life, not just towards that one person. That's how you can tell if it's changed you. This is why I oftentimes say, if you go out to dinner with somebody, pay attention to how they treat the waiter or the waitress. That's important. Why? Because they can put on a false front at the beginning and pretend to be polite, but just look for the little things. People who don't put their carts back at the supermarket. That's an old test as well. That's a person who's going to leave problems for other people to fix. Oh, but that's their job, and they just leave it. Oh, but they'll send someone out to get it. Do you know why they send people out to get the shopping carts? Because people leave them scattered around. They don't hire them specifically for that. It's a way of cleaning up after people that shouldn't have to be cleaned up after. And I get it. Oh, but I'm really busy. Isn't everybody? Oh, but my kids are in the car. Aren't that person's? We'll have excuses for it because that's just who we are. And then we'll get offended by the idea that there's something about us that has to change. And that's the thing that gets us when a person kind of exposes to us that there's something true, that there's something that has to be changed. We get angry about that because that then lays a responsibility on us that we don't want, which is to change. There's some changes that we might want to adopt. If you're looking for a meaning and a purpose in your life and you discover a way to find it, maybe you want that. Largely, not really, though. Because we can, again, we can learn to be comfortable in our misery. Not happy, not joyful, not content, but, okay with it. Comfortable. Comfortably numb in some cases. And so, what is it about the weaklings? Oh, the weaklings are the people who are going to think that they're good because they're surrounded in a society by people who tell them that they're good. They don't want to change. They don't want to become strong. Why? Because what does it take to become strong? God, think about the things it takes to become strong. Think about what it takes. I wonder how many of us here really want to be smart. We want to know a bunch of stuff. But what does it take to know a bunch of stuff? No, you got to put the phone down. You got to put the gaming console down. You've got to put time into reading. Oh, I hate reading. I don't know anybody, by the way, who sits there and says, I can't wait to start reading. And then they grab a book and they sit down, they're excited to read. I don't know anybody like that. I don't like that. I know that when I was a little kid, I looked around my neighborhood and was just thinking, like, my neighborhood's really messed up. And the people in my neighborhood, I love them, but their lives are messed up. And just looked for patterns. And one of the patterns I saw in my neighborhood was when I went into people's houses, they had more television screens or computer screens than they had books in the house. And that struck me. Because what is a book? A book is a person who lives their entire life and then will take everything that they've learned and they know and put it into 200 or 300 pages and then hand it off to you. And you can read that whole thing in a week or two. So you can live in another person's entire life in just a week or two. That's pretty dope because now you can live multiple lifetimes. I can learn all the lessons of the people who came before me. And yet the people in my neighborhood didn't read. Instead, they set their lives about, I gotta learn to make my own mistakes. I gotta mess my own things up. Man, imagine if that was the case where every generation we forgot how electricity works and we have to rediscover it. We would never have gotten to the moon. We would never have gotten television. We never have gotten radio. We never have gotten almost anything that we have that's electronically powered because every generation you got to relearn it. It sets you back. Wisdom is to be able to take what's come before you and to build on top of that. And so a weakling is going to be a person who's just afraid to do that. Why? Because it requires you to change and to adapt. I mean, if you want to become strong mentally, what do you have to do? You've got to do that. You have to put the work in. You have to read. You have to, and very importantly, you have to think, which means you have to set time aside to think. You can't think with things being blared into your ears all the time. You can't think when you're constantly distracted by a video or a show. You can't think deeply in 30-second clips. And the thing about it is that if you're not doing it, that doesn't mean no one's doing it. That means other people are doing it. And now fast forward 10, 15 years, who do you think's in control of the world? The people who never learned how to think more than 30 seconds at a time? If any of you read the story Harrison Bergeron when you were in 10th grade? People who never learned to think more than 30 seconds at a time? Or the people who learned how to actually contemplate deep ideas and not be distracted by the meaningless things? You tell me who's in control. And the truth is most people are happy with that. They don't want to be in control, much less of their own lives. I'm not talking about being in control of society. That's much bigger. Most people don't even want to be in control of their own lives. We want people to do what we want them to do, but we don't really want to be in control because control demands responsibility. And if you're going to be anything other than a weakling, you have to take responsibility for your own life. Yeah, you can. If you get robbed, you can call the police. Sure. How long is it going to take the police to get there? Are the police going to rob you when they get there? And And then the police can come by and fill out a report afterwards. Fine. Or you can learn how to protect yourself. No, but that takes a lot of time. That takes a lot of energy. Yeah. That doesn't mean you have to become a professional fighter. It doesn't mean you have to become a jiu-jitsu black belt, but it means you should be able to, if you're going to have stuff, you should learn how to protect it. But here's the alternative, and here's what the weakling is going to say. No, violence, guys, violence is never the answer. And then we all go, oh, such a good person. You're not a good person. You're not a good person. Because a good person is a person who has a choice to be good or evil. The stuff that I've been teaching you in this class, if you've taken it seriously, if you've learned it, it's not coming from me, it's coming from some of the greatest minds who have ever lived. And what is it that you've learned how to do? If you've paid attention, you've learned through the archetypes what motivates you, but also what motivates other people. Now you can use that for good or evil. You can manipulate a person if you understand what motivates them. Or you can use it to help them. Or you can use it to help both of you. You can use it to help fulfill their lives. Or you can use it to destroy their lives. But if you never learned about that stuff, you wouldn't be good or evil in how you interact with people. You would just be. Good or evil is a choice, largely. If you have the ability to do great harm to people, and then you choose not to, well, now you're a good person. If we have a lion sitting here in the corner, and then we have a rabbit sitting in that corner, do we look at the rabbit and say, that's a good rabbit. That rabbit is not harming the lion. He's not attacking the lion. What a good rabbit. And then the rabbit says, violence is never the answer. No, we sit there and go, the rabbit's not good or evil. It can't do any harm to the lion. You know, the problem is when you have weaklings who come along and think that they're good when they're not capable of doing harm. They think that they're good when they haven't developed the ability to manipulate people and choose not to. And isn't it funny how so many people, when they do develop that ability, that's exactly what they do with it. Isn't it so interesting that people, when they get money so often, they use the money to satisfy their own wants and desires and not make the world or the community or the people around them a better place. I don't mean that by giving away money, but by using the resources to build people up. These would be the same people, by the way, who right now will say, you know what? The rich are too rich. We should tax the rich and help the poor. And we all go, oh, what a good person. You're not a good person if you believe that. You're a good person if you have the money and you choose one way or the other. It's easy to say when you have $0 what the rich should do with their money. It's easy to say when you can't fight what people who can fight should do. But they're just a bully and they shouldn't fight. Because again, violence is never the answer. You're not a good person in any of those categories. You might have beliefs that correspond with goodness in the same way that if you remember, a 3-year-old can have true belief about what 1 + 2 equals. If you remember from our talk earlier on Jung. Oh no, we haven't gotten there yet. That's going to be today. Sorry. But what makes you good is when you have the capacity to do harm and you choose not to. The lion chooses not to eat the rabbit. Okay. Good lion. Appreciate that. If the lion does eat the rabbit, by the way, that's just nature. But if the lion chooses not to eat the rabbit because it wants the rabbit to live, the lion has made a moral choice in that case. Some of you in here are lions. Some of you in here are rabbits. The goal is to be a lion. You don't have to be the baddest human being in the face of the planet. I can kick anybody's ass. No. But you want to have stuff in life? Learn to protect it. Intellectually, physically, emotionally, psychologically, in every way possible. Learn how to protect it. Take care of the people around you. That doesn't just mean that you beat up bad guys. It also means that you communicate with them. You understand them. You understand what motivates them. Maybe it's that you desire and you seek their flourishing, their well-being, to love them properly. But if you never learn to do these things, don't count yourself good because you've avoided learning the things that are difficult in life. Consider yourself good when you learn those things and you employ them properly. Questions, comments, concerns, complaints, criticisms, critiques? Dope. Happy Tuesday-ish.